Hey everybody, I wanted to talk today a little bit about a topic that I've heard some buzz on, and that's this idea that maybe capitalism is failing. And so the question that comes to mind for me when I think about this topic is, do we actually live in a capitalist free market country right now? So again, from previous discussions, we've talked about three main economic models. One being the free market capitalist system, where private owners own the means of production in a country. And we've talked about fascist or corporatist economic models, where both the government and the private individuals own the means of production of different goods and services. And then there's, of course, the communist model, where the government owns all means of production and services in a country. So I wanted to take a look at a few different areas of our economy and ask myself whether or not we actually have a free market or a fascist or a communist control over these different markets. So drew up this board here. And we've had some interesting developments lately because, obviously, with the bailouts, we've had government extending its power into different areas where it's never had power before. So, for example, the first one we're talking about is the automobile industry. With the bailout of some of the American auto industries, the government is now involved. I can buy a car from a private company, or I can buy a car from a company that the government is managing, namely some of the American car companies right now. So if we look at which model the car industry would fall under right now, we've actually got a fascist system where both the government and private industry have control over a certain market. If you look at mail, for example, I can go to the post office and I can go through the government system to send mail to people around the world, or I can go to FedEx or UPS. So I have a choice of either a government or a private-run system there. So that would be another example of sort of a fascist or a corporatist model that we have. If we look at healthcare, we've had healthcare options such as Medicare and Medicaid that have been around since the 1930s. So there's another example of, at least for the elderly population, an example of where, okay, I can either get my own health care privately, or I can go to the government and use Medicare and Medicaid. So that's yet another example of a fascist approach to our economy. A few more. Retirement. Obviously, we've had Social Security coming right out of our paychecks ever since, I think that was the 1960s when that started up. So you can either retire using that money. You can also, of course, buy your own 401ks, save away your own money, work for a company that's got a pension plan. So once again, you've got both government and private options when you look at your retirement. Let's see, what else do we have here? We've got housing. Another example, at least for poor people, there are government-sponsored housing programs where you can get housing through the government, or you can privately buy a house. So that's another sector where you've got both options. Money is an interesting example here. If I have an apple and I want to trade it in for a banana, I can collect bananas, or I can collect money. So if we were to look at money as an actual commodity, the means of control and creation of money, obviously private people can't make money. That's considered counterfeit. Now the government can make money, but we've got this thing called the Federal Reserve that's been around since 1913. And that's actually a private bank. So in a way, you've got government control of the creation of money, but they've given that control to a private bank, so it's a sharing of that authority there. So I would actually technically put that under fascism. Some people might put it under communist, since the government controls the laws that were to put the Fed in place in the first place. but the Fed technically is a private organization, so it's sort of a quasi-communist fascist solution there. And of course, we've got the financial sector, which the bailouts went to a lot of the financial sector. So the government is controlling some of the companies that they chose to bail out right now. So again, you've got an option to do work with government-controlled companies or with private companies in the financial sector. So there's another example of a fascist economic approach. So anyhow, looks like we got a pretty good list here of mostly fascist things going on in our country. So when you take a look at where the money is being spent and whether it's being spent well or poorly, I think if you look in some of these sectors, then you could probably see, for example, everybody tends to agree that Medicare and Medicaid are going broke right now. And some of the other programs that are on the list are not doing well either. So whether or not a fascist model for some of these industries is the best solution is sort of up in the air. I don't think anybody would disagree that we need housing for poor people. So I'm not really debating the morality of these different sectors and how we're approaching it with government and private solutions. But we do have to look at the economic impact and see whether or not we as a country are losing a lot of money on the way these sectors are being run. So the next time somebody tells you that capitalism has failed, I would probably say, well, let's take a look at what you're really talking about and see whether or not we can come up with another solution besides saying capitalism has failed. Because in a lot of cases, the free market solution may have some offerings when you look, especially in these industries that we're talking about today, through all the stimulus packages and some of the things we've been dealing with for literally decades and generations. For example, the Fed, and whether or not we think the Fed should be around. So I'll have a topic on the Federal Reserve, and I hope this brings a little clarity to some of the different ways we're behaving in this country along the spectrum between the free market and the socialist ways of determining how we're going to run the economy. Okay, thanks. Take care.